Hi, this is Dr. Mark Santa, and welcome to today's Level Up podcast. And I'm with Chris Helms. Chris is the president of Federal Injury Centers, and boy, do they have a great source of income, profitability for your practice. Maybe something that you've never thought was possible, and that's actually profitably treating federal workers' compensation patients right in your chiropractic practice. So welcome, Chris. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So, Chris, how did you? I've had some experience with federal injury centers now for about 3 years. My personal chiropractor here in Miami is one of the program members, and I've gotten to see how this actually works and runs live in his practice, and it's really fascinating. It's quite eye-opening for the average chiropractor. Didn't think this was a possibility for them. How did you originally become involved with federal workers' comp?
So around 2007, was the operations manager of the country's largest federal workers' comp office. And there I found out that while we were doing great good in the areas we were located in Texas, I learned that there was not nearly enough doctors nationwide doing this.
Yeah.
You can go into most states and not find a single doctor who's willing to help these patients. So we started this company so that we could expand our system into all 50 states. Our mission being to put an office within range of every federal employee nationwide.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now I know that there are some docs who are listening and they're going to hear workers' compensation and immediately say, "Well, workers' comp in my state, it's really not supportive of chiropractic." How is this program different?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, those doctors are 100% correct. Workers' comp in their state is awful. It doesn't matter what state it is. A state workers' comp program is not good anymore. Maybe in the 80s and early 90s, it was pretty good, but not anymore. How is federal workers' comp different? Well, it's the same in every state, number one. Two, there are no restrictions in how you can treat a patient.
Mm.
The doctor has full authority to determine what's medically necessary. And the claims examiners or insurance adjusters on the other end are trained to say yes when doctors say this is necessary. So this is maybe the only program that exists where you can treat patients based on what patients need with no caps, no restrictions. And that's really great for the patient because they need extra help. You can't treat them like a Medicare patient. You can't treat them like it's private health insurance because the job they're going back to requires a lot more therapies and other medical interventions as well, so they can get back to this heavy job and make it to retirement.
So what patient population are we talking about? Postal workers, those sorts of employees?
Yeah, so these are only federal employees. Every federal agency and civilians on military bases are also covered. If they're injured, then we help them after they're hurt. More than half of all federal employees are postal workers. And so we see a lot of postal employees, of course, but we get patients from every agency, everybody. If it's a federal agency, we help them.
We're near a few airports, so I know there's a lot of TSA.
That's right. TSA is a big customer base for us.
Super cool. So does this require a special skill set? I know there's a lot of, you mentioned that these employees have to be returned to a level of function that they're not going to hurt themselves when they go back on a physical job. And I know that there's a lot of active care when this is delivered, meaning a lot of exercise therapy that's delivered. Does it require special training beyond your typical chiropractic skill set?
Not for the treatment. This is why we love working with chiropractors. We think obviously they're the best at musculoskeletal conditions, and that's what we're talking about here. Knee injuries, ankles, hips, lumbar, shoulders, things that chiropractors are trained to do. This is perfect for them. And Department of Labor loves for chiropractors to do this work. And it is very physical. We use a couple of codes that are exercise and activity codes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I say we use it. I don't tell doctors how to treat, but this is how they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do this activities and exercises is because the typical, say, postal employee, the letter carrier, walks 8 to 10 miles a day carrying 70-pound packages and a 35-pound satchel. It's a really hard job physically. And so the doctors are using intensive exercise and activities to get them back to that job.
Yes, and an office visit is not like the typical 15-minute
Yeah.
in and out chiropractic office visit that most folks are used to. It actually looks a little bit more like a physical therapist visit, where you're receiving multiple units of therapy, uh, manual therapies, and could be up to a couple of hours that a patient's in the office for a visit like that.
Yeah, you nailed it. While adjustments are definitely part of a Department of Labor program, patients that have a need for chiropractic adjustments definitely can have those. But this is, you're right, a 2 hour a day program. That's not for everybody. If someone's got a broken finger, they don't get 2 hours of treatment, right? But if someone blew out their ACL, they might. If they're recovering from a herniated disc, they might. And so, based on the diagnosed condition, we've seen patients who are getting visits up to 2.5 hours. And what's even more shocking is you can get these 2 hour visits and you can get, I did a study once where we found 46 visits per patient over almost 300 patients.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of therapy sessions that's in line with this heavy job they have to go back to.
Right. And I believe that reimbursement is in line as well with
Yeah.
the amount of services that patient is receiving.
Yeah,
And
the patients
necessarily.
we're typically being reimbursed $150 to $175 per hour. And we're talking about generally 2 hour cases, hour and a half to 2 hour cases. And so it's nothing for us to see $350 plus visits from patients getting chiro rehab.
And patients are receiving this gratefully. I know that there's a huge amount of frustration with many of the patients who've kind of hit a wall.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
part of what you all do is to help get these folks approved for necessary care that they wouldn't have otherwise. And we're still in the middle of an opioid epidemic here,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
the alternative is pretty sad. And so part of how you help docs is that you help those patients get the permission to be able to receive care.
That's right. And we do that by teaching doctors how to get the actual injury claim approved, which is the most important part. You can't provide treatment that you get paid for if the claim's not approved.
Hmm.
Nationwide, 1 out of 7 injured people has an accepted claim. But at federal injury centers, we're running at 6.5 out of 7 that have accepted claims. That's our specialty. It's what we're known for. It's why patients are begging us for doctors, because they know in our system, their claims get approved and their lives are not ruined financially and otherwise.
Hmm. Yeah. And so are there special I would assume special documentation requirements that are involved with when caring for federal work comp?
Yeah, so a lot of doctors who aren't, they're not fully trained, they're not really familiar with federal workers' comp. One of their pushbacks on me is that there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork, but almost nothing for the doctor to fill out. I can think of 3 forms that a doctor writes on of all the forms they have. So that's not overwhelming, of course. But the real critical thing is being able to write an initial narrative report explaining how the injury is related to the job. Most chiropractors are used to doing this, and their PI practices, they have to write great narratives explaining what they're doing and how the injury occurred. So again, it's just another area that's a good match for these doctors. And anybody can write the narrative, but a medical doctor has to sign it. I'm sure you're going to get to that, but it's important that our doctors that are watching this understand that it requires a degree of medical integration. And I'm sure we can go into that as well.
Great. Well, about a third of our members are integrated practices, meaning they have a MD, nurse practitioner, PA, right on
Yeah.
staff. And I can see how that could be a very easy fit. What if I'm a chiro who doesn't have an employ a medical doctor on my team? How does that work?
Well, it's very problematic if you're not willing to have medical, because Department of Labor specifically says that a medical doctor must manage the case. And really for us, they have to review and sign. They're allowing, which is pretty new for Department of Labor, they're allowing telehealth visits.
Mm-hmm.
So except for the initial visit, outside of that makes it easier for our doctors to bring on medical, because it's obviously a lower cost of bringing on that doctor if they don't have to come to the office. That's one way to do it. Nurse practitioners and PAs are welcome in this program. Their work is considered equal to a medical doctor's as long as there's a counter signature by the MD. And so anybody that's not medically integrated, there are ways to do it. You can hire contract doctors part-time. You can go the mid-level route, but we help with that.
Yes.
As far as that integration, we'll help with it.
Great. Yeah, I know in my chiropractor's office, the MD telehealth's in
Right.
on a regular basis, and then they kind of batch the exams, and he comes in and physically does the in person
That's right.
sessions in kind of in a batch.
Yeah, he does. He's very good at that.
Very cool. So the business model, I know from experience, can be very lucrative. It can be very profitable for a doc. It is a different practice structure. You can run it parallel, as my chiropractor does, parallel to your chiropractic normal
Sure.
15, 20-minute visit practice, and then also have this. You do want to have adequate space to have people working out, and they're going to spend some time. And so you want to have a comfortable place for them to be in the office.
Right.
So in terms of the business model that you offer, I understand that you guys have chosen the franchise model, and that
Right.
offers some benefits and some protections to the doc, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel or kind of go it on your own and figure it out. Tell us about the benefits of the franchise structure for a chiropractor.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So in the last, I'd say, year and a half, we've transitioned over to this model. Prior to that, we were consultants for federal workers' comp. We went to doctors and they pay us as a consultant. But we weren't able to spread and meet the mission of a doctor within range of every patient. So what we decided is we're going to transform this into a franchise model where they have more support from us than they would, as a consultant. When we're finished, the job is done. And or that's how we worked. And this one, the job's never done. We have staff that are there full time to do handholding. We are a training company. We've got an online training portal. There's a module for every person in the office. The reason doctors drop out of this program is because they don't have that training. And when they drop out, they can't help the patients anymore, and that doesn't work for my mission. So we've got a really strong training portal with that staff that's there to help them. We do on-site visits. We've got a compliance program, which is really important. It's not talked about often, but our compliance system is why we're going to be in it for a very long time. And it's how we've been in it for a very long time. Nobody ever shows up with a badge, which is nice because we have a really strong compliance system. We teach marketing because without being able to acquire these patients, there is no federal workers' comp program. And they don't know how. Most people don't really know where to go to find these patients. We do. We have found them by the millions already who know about us. And so a doctor that comes into our franchise is coming into a system where they have other doctors to support them that are already part of the program. And then they have myself, my partners, and my staff who are all trained to do what we teach. So anybody can get in to do this without us, but getting in it with us means there's no hassle. All the pain is in the setup. And so we fixed that. It's kind of a painless setup.
Well, setup, and as you mentioned, I think the big thing is the ongoing support. As with all sorts of insurance, this is something that also changes and morphs. And being part of an organization, like you said, of like-minded docs who have a national exposure, this allows you to not have to make costly errors on your own.
Well, that's right. And, I was talking earlier about getting a claim accepted, how that's a deal breaker if you can't. Well, this system-wide approach that we've got means that every office is operating at greater than 95% acceptance rate.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. So being part of this system means you really get to help a lot of people. We don't just talk about it. We actually get the job done. And that's why patients, come to us. They rely on us to get more offices because we get the job done.
Agreed. So not only are you helping the docs, you're helping the patients and helping
Right.
a broken system as well, which is.
Well, it is a broken system. It's exactly how I describe it. It's a system that's got confusion built into it. for the doctors, for the patients. And we try to remove all of that and make it easy.
Absolutely. So Chris, the franchise, it typically has a franchise fee when we talk about a franchise model, and then usually there are some ongoing payments that are made. How does that look for you all, for the Breakthrough Coaching members who are listening?
So our standard franchise fee is $45,000, which is in line with any other chiropractic franchise fee that's on purpose. But for Breakthrough Coaching clients, we're reducing it significantly, down to $35,000. I believe is what we've agreed to, 35,000.
That's great. Thank you.
And we want to do that. We want to make it easy for doctors to say yes. Again, I can't hit the mission if doctors keep telling me no. So we're trying to make it easy for doctors to jump on board. It's a lucrative program. It is. It touches my heart to help these people. We genuinely love the patients. And so it's very rewarding in that way, being able to see how you can change people's lives, which is what we do. In a lot of ways, we save their lives.
That's the truth.
So we want to make it easy for doctors to say yes and get on board with this. And the ones that have are super happy.
Well, Chris, what would be the action step that you would recommend a doc to do? Should they reach? I know they'll have access to your links and information along with this podcast. What would you recommend folks do?
So what we like for people to do is they can go to our website, which is joinficfranchise.com. Join FIC for Federal Injury Centers, franchise.com. From there, they can call our 877 number, or they can request a webinar. And I want them to come to the webinar, which is a short PowerPoint presentation. It's easy. We can do it in 20 or 30 minutes, just so they get all the information. Like I told a guy yesterday, it answers the questions you didn't ask me.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there, if the doctor is really interested in it, we send them the franchise disclosure document to review. They sign that and we move on.
So about how long would it take for somebody to get up and running?
I don't want anyone seeing patients for 30 to 60 days. Mm-hmm. We really need the training. Okay. If you don't get the training, then you fail on day one, and then you feel really bad about this. And the patients feel pretty bad about it too. So we'd like to start the training right away. And by the 60th day, you should be able to fully be operational and functional, which is a pretty fast startup, all things considered.
Well, I agree. Well, Chris Helms from Federal Injury Centers, I appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank you.
And also for your mission, the work that you do for your patients and for our chiropractic profession. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
And for our listeners, this is Dr. Mark Santa with Breakthrough Coaching. Make today an exceptional day.